Today we're digging into just a few short verses at the end of 2 Kings 12, but wow, do they tell a huge story. We're talking about the tragic downfall of King Joash. It's an absolutely gripping case study in leadership, integrity, and just how fast a righteous path can be totally abandoned.
You know, this whole story just makes you ask a really tough question. How does a righteous king, someone who started off so well, end up falling so far from grace? Well, the account of Joash gives us a pretty stark and compelling answer. So let's jump right in at the exact moment everything changed.
So our story really kicks off not with some big victory, but at a critical turning point. This is it. This is the catalyst for the collapse, the single moment where a whole kingdom's righteous path just begins to completely unravel. It all starts right here in verse 17. After the priest Jehoiada dies, the leaders of Judah immediately, and I mean immediately, turn to serving Baal. And what's so stunning about this verse is just how fast it all falls apart. The second that guiding prophetic voice is gone, the leadership flips right back to idolatry. It just goes to show you how fragile their commitment really was.
And this timeline, it just lays it all out for you, doesn't it? Before Jehoiada dies, everything's going great. Righteous counsel, the temple is being restored. But the moment he's gone, bam, idolatry comes roaring back. It really highlights a key lesson from the text. You know, sustained faithfulness so often depends on having that strong, consistent mentorship.
So, as you can imagine, this loss of leadership sends the entire kingdom into a spiritual nosedive. The purity they had worked so hard to get back just starts to evaporate, almost instantly. And verse 18 shows us that the decay went all the way to the top. Even King Joash himself, after such a righteous start, did evil and forsook the house of the Lord. He started serving the Asherim and Baalim. We're talking about major Canaanite fertility gods here, a direct violation of his covenant with God.
Okay, so this brings up a really important idea you need to understand to get what's happening: syncretism. It's basically trying to merge different, often contradictory beliefs. It's like trying to mix oil and water. In this case, they were trying to blend true worship with popular idolatry, and that kind of compromise just fundamentally corrupted their entire covenant.
So what's the big takeaway here? What's the text really showing us? Well, it's that reforming an institution, like restoring the temple, that's just not enough on its own. The story shows us that long-term faithfulness requires constant, active spiritual vigilance from the leaders and from the people.
But just when you think it can't get any worse, it does. The tragedy here really deepens because this wasn't just some slow fade into corruption. No, this was a deliberate, conscious rejection of guidance. Joash and his leaders were given plenty of chances to turn back.
Verse 19 is so important because it tells us this wasn't some mistake made out of ignorance. Joash had a clear moral benchmark. He had the blueprint from Jehoiada's counsel. He knew what was right. His disobedience was a conscious choice to reject the very wisdom he knew he should follow. And look at this. You can actually see the pattern of rejection getting worse and worse. First, he throws out the established mentorship he had from Jehoiada. Then, in verse 20, God sends more prophets to correct him. But what does Joash do? He refuses to listen to them either. It's this deliberate hardening of his heart against any kind of guidance.
All right, so you've got all these bad choices, this pattern of total rejection. Well, that couldn't go unanswered, right? The narrative now builds to its climax, and we see the severe and, frankly, unavoidable consequences of such deep disobedience.
And the first consequence? It's a big one. It's laid bare right here: the divine withdrawal of protection. The favor and the safety that had kept the kingdom secure were now gone.
And then, verse 21, man, it just delivers the final devastating verdict. The Spirit of the Lord departs, his own servants assassinate him in his bed, and then even in death he's denied a proper royal burial. Every single aspect of his reign, spiritual, political, historical, it all ends in judgment. The fall is just absolute. Let's just break this down for a second. The judgment against him is total, and it unfolds in three ways. First, his political world completely implodes. He's taken out by his own inner circle. Next, his choices leave the whole kingdom spiritually unstable, vulnerable, and without direction. And finally, there's that posthumous dishonor. Being denied a royal burial was a huge public statement, a powerful sign of a failed reign.
So what does this all mean? Let's pull back from the historical details for a minute and look at the big picture principles here. What can we really learn from the incredible rise and the catastrophic fall of King Joash?
Okay, so what are the big lessons to take away from this?
Well, first, it's pretty clear that good mentorship is a game changer. Joash thrived with it and totally collapsed without it. Second, it's a huge reminder that big projects, like rebuilding a temple, are pretty meaningless without that personal spiritual follow-through. And finally, it's just a powerful reminder that divine blessing isn't some one-time deal. It's conditional on continued obedience.
And so we're left with this final question. When you look at the absolutely critical role Jehoiada played, you just have to ask, is leadership just a position you hold? Or is it really a partnership, one that's built on wise counsel and accountability? It's a question worth thinking about. Thanks for digging into this with me today.